Bhasa said, "Then I asked the fire god, who was this person before he died?" The fire god narrated to me the following story. Listen. There is infinite space, which is full of pure consciousness. In it are countless worlds, floating like so many atoms. In that there arose a cosmic person endowed with self-awareness. That person experiences his own light as you see an object in a dream. From those experiences arise the various senses and their respective organs, which together form the body. These senses perceive their own respective objects, which become the world. Well, this is a peculiar introduction to the story. What we've got is a recap of our existential reality. Remember now that Bhasa has experienced the cosmic dissolution. A new creation is taking place. And Bhasa has asked a question about this massive corpse that caused the cosmic dissolution by falling on the earth plane. And this kind of question is the sort of question which takes you right back into creation. And the creation is beginning to take place. It's arising from the cosmic dissolution. So the fire god is doing what he can now to make sure that Bhasa doesn't get caught up in the creation once again. So he's answering the question, but he's putting it in the context of infinite consciousness, which is our situation. We are the cosmic being, the cosmic person, endowed with self-awareness. So this is the world, and we form the world. In that world there arose a person named Asura. And this word Asura is what's normally translated as demon. I've generally gone along with it, but it should be pointed out that the word demon doesn't have the personification of evil that it does in the Western traditions. A better word would be titan. These titans are as powerful as the gods. I suppose the difference is that they're caught up in their passions. They're extremely passionate beings. And in many ways they're more appealing than the gods. We've had stories in the Yoga Vasistha about the enlightenment of the demons of these titans. But I don't think we've had any stories about how gods get enlightened. The assumption is that the gods are enlightened, but this isn't always the case. He was proud of his might. So this is one of the things that they're subjected to, is pride. Once he destroyed the hermitage of a sage, who cursed him thus: "You have done this because you are proud of your gigantic body. You will die and become a mosquito." The fire of that curse burnt Asura to ashes. He became a disembodied personality, just like the mind of an unconscious person. It became one with the physical space. He then became united with the wind in that space. This wind is the life force, the prana. The Asura now awoke as a living being and acquired energy, water, etc. Once again endowed with the 5 elements and a particle of the infinite consciousness, he began to vibrate as an individual. There arose in him self-awareness, just as a seed sprouts in favourable conditions. In that self-awareness lay the sage's curse, and therefore the notion of a mosquito. Therefore he became a mosquito. It's almost like a post-hypnotic suggestion, isn't it? In answer to Rama's question, Vasistha said, well, we haven't got a question from Rama, so we have to assume this question has been asked. So let's see what the answer is. Right from Brahma down to the blade of grass, all beings are subject to 2 forms of birth. The first is Brahma's creation, and the other is illusory creation. I've touched on the meaning of birth in the past. When you get these stories of lots of incarnations, one after the other. And the meaning of birth is really the birth of the notion of I. So that's one form of birth, and the other understanding is the conventional birth from a womb. So we've got two kinds of birth. The first is Brahma's creation and the other is illusory creation. The creation that arises spontaneously in the mind of the creator, which he had not experienced before, is the creation of Brahma, not birth through the womb. So this is the spontaneous arising of notions, and the birth happens when we identify with these notions. That which arises on account of latent delusion is the illusory birth, born of subject-object relationship. So this is when we consider ourselves as a real entity, a real person, who must have come from somewhere. And we trace the origins of who we are right back to the womb. So that whole thing about the two kinds of births in parenthesis. So let's get back to the mosquito. The mosquito dwelt happily on a blade of grass with its partner. This grass was eaten by a deer. Because he died looking at the deer, he became a deer. There's a very coincidental connection from one life to the next. It's by the very loosest of associations. This is how our reality is. It's just one thing after the other. One association leads to the next. The deer was killed by a hunter. Hence the deer was born as a hunter in the next birth. While the hunter was roaming the forest, he had the good fortune to meet a holy sage who awakened him. Why do you engage yourself in this cruel life of a hunter? Abandon this sinful life and seek to attain nirvana. So now we've got the story of the hunter and the sage. We've got stories within stories within stories. This is a framework of the Yoga Vasistha, and this is our reality. Stories within stories within stories. So let's find out about this hunter who became the Asura that caused the cosmic dissolution.